There comes a moment in every life when the mirror stops reflecting who we are becoming and starts reminding us of who we used to be. And in that quiet, uncomfortable realization, something begins to stir. It is not anger, it is not regret, it is awakening. You feel it in the way your old habits no longer fit, in the way familiar rooms feel too small, in the way the applause you once chased now sounds hollow. That is the sound of your spirit knocking, asking to be led out of the cage you built for survival. Tonight I am not here to comfort the version of you that learned to cope, to please, to endure. I am here to speak to the warrior within you who knows that survival is not the same as living. Because sometimes the greatest act of self-love is not improving the old you. It is having the courage to destroy what no longer serves you and rebuild yourself alone, brick by brick, truth by truth, until you rise unrecognizable even to your own doubts. They called you too loud before they ever heard your song. They called you too sensitive before they understood your depth. They called you weak because you bent in the storm, never noticing you did not break. Somewhere along the way, those words began to cling to you like smoke in fabric. You carried them into classrooms, into relationships, into opportunities. You wore labels that were never stitched by your own hands. Not smart enough. Too much. Not enough. And without realizing it, you began living inside the borders of names you did not choose. But hear me clearly. A label is only powerful if you answer to it. The world is quick to name what it does not understand. It is easier to shrink you than to stretch their imagination, easier to confine you than to confront their own limitations. So they hand you small definitions and expect you to live inside them quietly. And for a while, perhaps you did. Not because you were weak, but because you were learning. Not because you believed them fully, but because you had not yet met your full self. There comes a sacred fire in life, a moment when you grow tired of introducing yourself through someone else's misunderstanding. A moment when you look at every false title placed upon your shoulders and decide it will not follow you into your future. That fire is not rage, it is clarity. It is the realization that you were born whole, not waiting for approval to become. Burning the old labels is not about proving anyone wrong. It is about freeing yourself. It is about standing in the truth of who you are and saying, I am not the names you gave me. I am the power you could not define. And when you release those borrowed identities, something miraculous happens. Your back straightens, your voice steadies, your steps grow deliberate, because you are no longer walking under the weight of judgment. You are walking in the light of self-definition. Let them keep their small words. You have a vast spirit, and no label has ever been strong enough to contain a soul that has decided to rise. There is a quiet hallway you must walk when you decide to become someone new. No crowd gathers there, no music plays. It is a long, echoing corridor called reinvention, and only your footsteps keep you company. When you begin to outgrow your old self, something unexpected happens. The familiar faces grow distant. The conversations feel thinner. The laughter does not land the same. It is not that you have stopped loving them, and it is not that they have stopped loving you. It is simply that growth changes your language. And not everyone is fluent in the dialect of your becoming. Reinvention is lonely because it requires honesty that cannot be outsourced. No one can sit in the midnight of your doubts for you. No one can wrestle your fears into submission on your behalf. The rebuilding of a soul is sacred labor, and sacred labor is often solitary work. You will miss the comfort of being understood without explanation. You will miss the ease of fitting into rooms that once applauded the version of you that stayed small. But growth asks a different question. Do you want comfort or do you want expansion? In this loneliness, something powerful begins to form. Without constant noise, you hear your own thoughts more clearly. Without constant validation, you learn to affirm yourself. Without constant company, you discover that your own presence is not empty. It is rich, layered, and wise. Do not mistake solitude for abandonment. Sometimes it is preparation. The caterpillar does not consult the crowd before entering the cocoon. The seed does not ask permission before breaking underground. Transformation demands privacy before it reveals power. And one day, when you emerge, steadier, stronger, unrecognizable in the most beautiful way, you will realize that the loneliness was not punishment. It was protection. It was the quiet space where you learned that you are enough company for your own rebirth. Reinvention may begin in solitude, but it ends in sovereignty. There is a sacred moment that comes without applause, without witnesses, without excuse. It is the moment you stand before the mirror and decide not to look away. Not the mirror that reflects your face, but the one that reflects your choices. The one that remembers the promises you broke to yourself. The one that knows when you stayed silent though your spirit was screaming. That mirror does not flatter. It does not soften the truth. It simply waits for your courage. Facing yourself is the bravest confrontation you will ever have. It is easier to point at the world and say, "They hurt me." Easier to list betrayals, disappointments, and missed chances. But growth begins the day you whisper, "Where did I abandon myself?" That question is not cruel, it is clarifying. You must look at the habits that kept you small, the fears you fed instead of fought, the excuses you polished until they shined like reasons. Not to shame yourself, but to understand yourself, because what you refuse to face will follow you. What you dare to face will free you. There are shadows within you, jealousy, doubt, anger, insecurity. They are not proof that you are broken. They are proof that you are human, but when ignored, they become rulers. When acknowledged, they become teachers. The mirror is not your enemy, it is your witness. Stand there long enough, and you will see more than flaws. You will see resilience. You will see the child who survived what should have shattered her. You will see strength disguised as scars. You will see a spirit that bent but never surrendered. Do not rush this encounter. Let it humble you. Let it refine you. Let it strip away the illusion of perfection and replace it with the power of authenticity. Because you cannot rebuild yourself on denial. You cannot rise from a version of you that you refuse to examine. And when you finally step away from that mirror, not flawless but honest, you will walk differently. Not because you are perfect, but because you are aware. And awareness is the first brick in the foundation of a new life. Releasing what they called you is only the beginning. Once the old labels fall to ash, you are left with something both terrifying and beautiful. Open space. And in that space, you must decide who you will be on purpose. Designing the new identity is not a performance. It is not about impressing the world with a louder version of yourself. It is quiet architecture. It is the deliberate laying of bricks where chaos once lived. It is choosing your thoughts the way a gardener chooses seeds, knowing that whatever you plant will eventually grow roots. Your mindset must become intentional. No longer can you afford to entertain beliefs that shrink you. If a thought whispers, "You cannot," you must answer, "Watch me learn." If a memory says, "You failed," you must respond, "I evolved." The mind is a workshop, and you are both the builder and the blueprint. Then come the habits, those small, repeated actions that shape destiny more than grand speeches ever could. Waking when you promised to rise, speaking when you once stayed silent, walking away when you once begged to stay. Identity is not declared. It is practiced daily until it becomes natural. And your standards must rise like the sun. What you tolerate teaches others how to treat you. What you accept becomes your atmosphere. If you demand respect from yourself first, the world will adjust or it will exit. Either way, you win. This new identity will feel unfamiliar at first. Growth often does. You may question whether you are pretending, but understand this. You are not pretending to be stronger. You are rehearsing the strength that was always yours. Design yourself with care. Design yourself with truth. Not from revenge, not from ego, but from vision. Ask, who must I become to live the life I dream of? Then begin becoming her quietly, consistently, relentlessly. And one day, you will wake up and realize you are no longer rebuilding. You are simply living as the person you chose to be. They named you before you even knew your own voice. They studied your difference and called it deficiency. They measured your spirit against their comfort and declared you too much or not enough. And because you were young or hopeful or simply human, you carried those names as if they were truth. But a label is only ink on paper until you carve it into your identity. Some of you have been walking around wearing words that never belong to you. Difficult, average, unworthy, failure. These were not discoveries about you. They were projections from others who could not see beyond their own limits. It is easier for the world to categorize you than to comprehend you. Burning the old labels is not rebellion for the sake of noise. It is liberation for the sake of peace. It is standing in the center of your own life and saying, I refuse to answer to a name that diminishes my light. It is understanding that other people's judgments were often born from their fears, fears of your potential, your independence, your brilliance. You must gather those false titles gently but firmly, not with hatred, but with clarity. Lay them before you and examine them. Ask yourself, is this truly me, or is this what someone needed me to believe? And when you find the lie, have the courage to release it. Because when you burn a label, you do not destroy yourself, you uncover yourself. Beneath every limiting word is a hidden strength. Too sensitive becomes deeply empathetic. Too ambitious becomes purpose-driven. Too quiet becomes observant and wise. What they tried to confine often contains your greatest power. Do not fear the smoke that rises when you let these labels go. That smoke is simply the past losing its grip. Stand still and let it clear. Feel the lightness in your chest when you no longer carry someone else's definition. You were never meant to live inside a box built by misunderstanding. You were meant to define yourself in your own language, in your own time, in your own strength. Let the old names turn to ash. Speak your own into existence. There is a day coming when the people who once knew you will look at you twice, not because you have changed your face, but because you have changed your frequency. The way you speak will carry calm authority. The way you walk will no longer ask for permission. The way you stand will no longer bend under opinions, and they will whisper, you're different. Yes, you are. Rising unrecognizable is not about revenge. It is not about proving them wrong or parading your growth like a trophy. It is about evolving so deeply that the version of you who once begged for validation no longer exists. The hunger for approval fades. The need to explain dissolves. The urge to shrink to make others comfortable disappears like mist at sunrise. You stop arguing with people who misunderstand you. You stop chasing rooms that never valued you. You stop announcing your worth and start embodying it. And that quiet confidence unsettles those who only knew the old you, the apologetic you, the accommodating you, the uncertain you. But understand this, when you rise, you may lose access to spaces that only welcomed your smaller self. That is not loss, that is alignment. You are not meant to fit where you have outgrown. Unrecognizable does not mean unkind. It means unwavering. It means you have learned your lessons so thoroughly that you no longer repeat them. It means you have forgiven enough to move forward, but remembered enough to set boundaries. It means you trust yourself now. And unstoppable is not loud. It is consistent. It is the discipline to keep going when no one claps. It is the strength to choose growth when comfort calls your name. It is the refusal to abandon yourself again. One day you will meet someone who says, I never thought you'd become this, and you will smile, not with arrogance, but with quiet gratitude, because you know the nights you rebuilt alone. You know the labels you burned. You know the tears you turned into fuel. You did not just change, you rose. And this time you are not asking anyone if you are enough.